Shall we start the second module? Okay. Now this is the second module we are moving further on clinical communication skills. This is what literature says, the fact says. And if you notice, first literature I am able to access is 1986. So it's not a very old science anywhere in the world. People started realizing, thinking about it, talking about it in 1986 that communication has an issue and it helps. It has therapeutic effect. That's what the study came in, and further studies came for the breast cancer and for analgesia as well. It was also realized that it saves us from complaints. That's what the Medical Defence Union says, the biggest indemnifier for doctors in the UK. And that's what the research paper shows from the data analyzed. And GMC says it's no longer a nice to have thing. It is essential, as I've said earlier. Of course, the complaints go down as this research in 2000 says, and malpractice suits go down further. And what is the basic communication mistake which we have realized very recently in 2007 as per the evidence-based medicine? That most of us, actually probably in day-to-day life also, not only with patients, interrupt within first 20 seconds of patient explaining their symptoms. We don't listen to them beyond 20 seconds most of the times. But on an average, it takes around 90 seconds only to describe the concerns they are carrying. And the word is concerns. I will delve on it further later. Of course, there are other fault lines like sitting and doing things on the computer while talking to the patient, or at the same time speaking, taking mobile calls or phone calls otherwise while you are discussing it. These are the non-verbal communication which does affect. But please try to understand, all of us have got a limbic system and it judges you, starts judging you whether you are moving congruently with the way you should be or not. And the other fault lines are, the more experienced, the more senior we start becoming, the less likely we remember how it feels like to be a lay person. Like especially if a female patient, you have to examine the chest. If you do not explain it thoroughly and properly, there is going to be an issue of misinterpretation and a malpractice suit or molestation charge as well. So the patients in 21st century are quite well aware, knowledgeable, they have got internet access, and it is good if we engage them actively and properly, because the compliance is going to increase. We want them to be compliant, but for that we need to engage them. With better compliance, the treatment works better, and that's what we all want. So how can we do that? The literature says that is by asking their thoughts, their beliefs and their concerns about the illness, not what we think. I'll discuss it later further again. Asking them, what do you think is causing it? Have they tried something? Has it helped? And what has been the effect of the ongoing disease on their life? Because that's what is going to make it further ill, if I would say so. So how to understand what your patient is listening to you is understanding or not? Then this can be judged by making them repeat what they have recalled, what they have understood, because this helps by up to 30% further that they are understanding properly and correctly what you are trying to mean to them. And of course you can correct them if they are wrong and they are repeating things to you. Again, literature. And that is another part of the module, but the another phase I will now be talking now, switching over to how can one improve communication skills. For that, one has to know what is the jargon, the technical language, like in anatomy, remembering femur, humerus, all these things, the new words, So in the communication skills, there is a jargon of that as well. And it's good to know if you want to be a faculty or you want to train yourself in these kind of area. What are the various structures of clinical communication skills which you can depend upon and use upon? How these skills help you master your risk, be it difficult colleagues or an adverse outcome of a procedure or a surgery you have been involved into. How to design communication program will help the policymakers and the hospital management to make their doctors get better in the communication skills and raising patient satisfaction to a higher level and making the patient safe and the staff more happy in their working. Of course, transaction analysis is another area which I'll be touching, a bit of psychology, which not only helps in your doctor-patient, doctor-doctor, but also your family and friends relationship as well. And coming to Herman brain dominance, I was mentioning earlier, I'll be talking about that, which will help you how you can become situationally competent. So I'll be dealing with all these things and we'll have a discussion after that. So coming to jargon, what's couple of words I'm sharing with you. If I start speaking in a long sentence with quite a kind of monotonous tone and keep on talking, you lose my track. But if I give adequate pauses, start speaking slowly, break my talk into the phrases which are small, you will be able to listen to me better and of course understand me better. And that's called chunking. Having said that, when I'm doing that, I'm watching your body language or verbal language, which will help me whether you are understanding or not. On the top, if I am speaking out something, at the same time, your face starts becoming sad or becoming happy, I will be able to see what kind of feelings you are getting when I am telling that something to you. And that's very important. If the person is getting sad, there's a very good chance that he's no more hearing to you. You can judge it by the facial expressions coming in, and that is the point you need to stop immediately. Don't give technical knowledge which you are trying to impart, which you need to impart, but speak about the emotion which is going through. Either way, like, oh, I can see you're feeling very happy, I can see you are feeling very upset. Let him talk about his feeling first. Get that trained out. Because in that emotional turbulence, be it good or bad, he is going to miss the knowledge what you were trying to impart otherwise, which you have to as part of your job. But if he is not listening because of that emotional feeling, there is no point, you're wasting your time. Get that trained out first, and because it will lead to miscommunication otherwise. And you say, doctor, you never told me. Well, you did say, he did not listen because it was an emotional thing, but you have to become that. That's our job. Okay, other thing, signposting. Something like, we will meet up again on that day at this hour and my secretary will give you the timing. Or I will give you a phone call, certain issues you have said I have not been able to answer. I will give you a call by tomorrow evening 6 o'clock and will answer that. So it's signposted that this is what you're going to do in that kind of time frame. So signposting, we do it day-to-day basis, but that's the term for it. And as I said, I will be discussing Herman brain dominance instrument in the last. So what I've done? I've parked that issue for the last. I've committed to you, I'll come to that, I'm not talking about it. So that's a part of the whole agenda. Similarly, the patient will come talking to you what you think is not relevant or important and you want to put it in the end because you are thinking, you are more competent, you are the doctor, that this is more important what you think. But you have to respect the patient as well and say, we will discuss about it and make a note of it in front of him so he feels comfortable that you are going to talk about it later. So you have parked that issue, what he wants and thinks is the most important, but you have ensured it, you will talk about it and say with your permission also, so you have empowered him as well. And make sure you discuss it in the end because he is going to wait for it. And probably the problem has already resolved in the whole communication by that time in the concern. And that's what is called parking appropriately. Warning, make sure when you are going to give some bad news, how you want them. Of course, your body language is going to speak, I'm pretty sure, you're very good at it, but you have to verbalize it as well if you're not doing it. You say, your father is dead. That's very cruel and not a good way of doing it. The way should be, I'm very sorry to tell you that we could not salvage your father, or we could not save your father. But I'm very sorry to say that. He's expecting that. He also knows what's going on inside. But the moment you said, I'm very sorry, that is what it means that you're warned enough. So from this point, this is module 2 we are finishing here. And I am happy if there are any questions, please.
When you say break conversation into small phrases, just give it.
Like many times it happens, and I still do it, like, if I'm dealing with a very critical patient who has come with some serious kind of ongoing problem, suppose major massive trauma, and he's got a heart problem as well. And we are agreed inside that this patient is not fit for ICU because even if we tube him, the quality of life is not going to be there because of the multiple background pathologies which he has already, which are out of control. The poor quality of life will come. So now I am going to speak to the relatives and I start speaking. I'm very sorry that you are going through what you are. I'm Dr. This, and I've come to share with you and update you. Now, if I start speaking like this, your husband has got multiple injuries and he has got a very uncontrolled diabetes, he's got renal failure, his blood levels are showing this much of creatinine and his urea creatinine are very up, even liver functions are going very high. So at this point of time, I'm giving too much information and I'm wrong in two ways. One is I'm giving too much information straight off. The patient and the family is already in shock state. They are already overwhelmed and I am further overwhelming them by giving too much information. On the top, I am using technical words like liver function, creatinine and urea. They don't know what they are. Do I need to give all that? No, I have to break down in small phrases. I am very sorry and we are trying our best, but he has got multiple problems. I hope you are understanding. And then pause. Let them speak out something. I've said 3 lines only, small phrases. Oh yes, doctor, he has got diabetes, he is not under control. I didn't need to say that, the patient's relative is saying. Because most of the information they are already aware. But if I start giving, they start going blind, numb, and I'm giving them information they know and they don't know. So speak in few phrases, hold, let them speak out. So I know what emotional feeling they are getting. And sometimes they say, Doctor, I'm overwhelmed. I don't understand what you're talking. They start crying. You don't want that at the end of the day. So small, listen, speak, engage, let them speak. It should be a dialogue, not a monologue. Though it's my job to give them all the information I've thought, but are they capable to take it? And how much? And in small phrases. That's what I mean.